That's big. And then tell me about the price of silver. You're saying that the price of silver is going to actually at some point, and I know you're a big fan of Bitcoin because it's much harder to manipulate, but you're saying that the price of silver is going to go way higher, faster, maybe not more price-wise, but it's going to go up faster than gold and even Bitcoin. Explain
Correct.
that.
Correct. Silver's got a very interesting future ahead of us because for a number of years, it's going to be increasingly a key component of increasing complex hyper technologies. And so the growth rate, the projection of emotional attachment to silver escalates as we go forward, even out into 2022, which is about as far as I trust my numbers on this. But basically what's going to happen is the silver will break out this year. The manipulation will shift and end for a bit. They'll try and ratchet it back in, and then they'll fight this slippery upward from our viewpoint on price battle as they try and suppress the price, but every day they'll lose a little bit of their ability to suppress, and it'll just keep going on like that through this year. Then as we get up to the end of the year, somewhere, let's say October-ish, we'll get another breakout, and they may not be able to contain it at that point because of what's going to be coming out relative to technology then. And so the desperate need for silver will become dramatically evident to people all around the planet. And we actually have language of a great silver dishoarding over 2018 and 2019 in many Western countries where the governments, and via corporations who are seeking to make a profit, send people out to assay and purchase silver in the form of old silver plate, silver any way that it can be stripped off of anything, even getting to the point of buying old film stock chemicals, these kind of things, just to recover the silver. It'll become that precious as we go forward because of the many conflicting uses for it. The technologies, the hyper technologies, which will be energy related, and then the spin-offs that will be related to health, and then the monetization. Now, in the longer term,
and wait, I just want to interrupt you 1 minute.
Sure.
In the longer term, your data. Hold that thought. So the price would have to be astronomical if they're trying to scrounge, silver off of film. The price would have to be astronomical. Am I wrong?
It's got to be at least as high as $600 an ounce because of the relationship of that particular temporal marker and that price that goes all the way back in our data to 2003. And so I think it'll be much higher than that, and it will escalate very rapidly towards parity with gold, and then it will basically get too expensive to use as money. It'll become a hyper rare, pretty much industrial chemical only over like these next few years. So that'll extend, as I say, at least out into the 2022 to 2024 range, and then we may get some kind of a change. But as of this point, it shows that silver mining becomes a very lucrative profession here, 2019 onward, with the first mines just starting to show a little bit of stuff in the early 2020s due to new technology, not due to standard operating procedures.
And if silver is $600 an ounce at least, what does that put gold? 3, 2, 3, 4,000, 5,000? What does that put gold?
The next number we have for gold is about 4,800. Okay, so we show a slight pullback somewhere in the neighborhood of $4,800 US per ounce of gold. I would say that we're looking maybe before March of next year, just making a guesstimate about it because of it'll be 1/3 the value of Bitcoin at that point. So at the point that it does its pullback, it's a little complex, but in terms of how it shows up. But so say $4,500 would be about 1/3 of the value of Bitcoin at the time that gold is at that level. And this is when silver has already escalated that the amount of language devoted to it is more than double now. So that would imply, and also the language is spread beyond simply the business and the precious metals community. So it's much more what we might think of as a general population discussion. And that would imply that more than 1% of the populace is attempting to buy it. So I would suspect, again, that we're looking at well over $1,000 an ounce for silver at that point.
And $4,500 for gold, is that what you're saying?
4,800, and then it drops down about $300, and then the data shows that when it's dropped down to that point, just curiously, it happens to match for a brief period of time exactly 1/3 of the price of Bitcoin when gold does that little dip and then it's back up again.
So I mean, you're telling Bitcoin's going to be $1,400 an ounce, 14,000 an ounce.
Thousands, $13,000 or $13,008 or something. I think that is the target that the data shows as of February of next year.
Oh boy! You're talking about exploding gold, silver, and Bitcoin prices. Exploding.
No. Sorry, Bitcoin is simply escalating. It doesn't explode until 2019.
Oh, but gold and silver explodes and tries to catch up with Bitcoin, but it won't. Bitcoin just is on an arc where it's just going to continually go up.
Let me give you some shocking numbers here. If you just looked at it against Bitcoin, against existing stockpile of gold right now, and you recognize that they both had attributes that made them similar, there's one Bitcoin available on the planet for every 1,000 ounces of gold.
Oh, boy. Huh. That's so yeah. Wow. And you can't and can't you just manufacture more Bitcoin?
No, there's the finite limit of the 21 million that'll be created, and that's it. And thereafter, we have to really, thereafter in the Bitcoin community is when things get really interesting for us, because then we start mining through, so to speak, processing through all the decibits and millibits and spreading out the wealth around the planet. That's at least the Chinese approach, is that when the Bitcoins are all mined, then it becomes very interesting, because then you can actually do things with the money, so to speak, and the wealth that it represents in a way that we can't quite now, because the focus is on creating that next Bitcoin as opposed to shoving more value further down, so to speak, into decibits and millibits.
And where do you think ultimately, in the 2020, 2025 range, where do you think gold and silver end up? In the years 2020, 2025, whatever, in that time frame?
Well, we don't have numeric values, okay? We rarely get those. We have emotional quantifiers that are applied. And so for silver, we have language that says that the people that are the silver stackers are going to have multiple generations in their families praise their names for being so smart, because these guys will be creating fortunes that will travel down several generations in a family. So that gives you some idea.
Wow, unbelievable. And I wanted to get into the nastiness, and I want to end up with, as I did last time, Antarctica and Mars. I will explain that in a minute. I wanted to go with this fighting retreat. That that the elite could pull economic dirty tricks. That's what I wrote down. Let me make sure I wrote this down. Economic dirty tricks. And they backfire. At least that's what I read in your report. Is that what we have coming? Economic dirty tricks. This is all part of the chaos.
Correct. And the reason they're going to backfire it's the same reason that the media tricks are backfiring on them now, as the population has evolved beyond the level of gaming that the power elite are capable of. They're stuck in an old style broadcast mentality, if you will, and they don't recognize that the individual access to information has led to a whole new generation and multiple generations that are a lot smarter and a lot more complex in their thinking. So the same kind of dirty tricks are not going to work anymore, and they're just going to backfire as they each are tried. So we'll see the attempt to shovel debt into populations backfire on the power elite. So there won't be another Ireland, for instance, where they're able to get the population to accept massive amounts of debts that are not legitimately owed, and so on. And in fact, many of the people now, as I say, are going to start getting together, and it may be the millennials that are basically now disenfranchised by the loss that the progressives forced them into over this election. But we show many of the younger people actually forming these collectives that are pouring through information, looking for ways in which, ways to get the truth out, if you will, but also ways to see about recovering some of the stolen value that had been leached out of these generations by the secrecy state.
And one last, I wanted to say, too, that probably half my audience is like 34, 35 and younger, which I'm surprised. I'm an old guy. But people are trying to, young people want the truth. I mean, they're more attuned to what's going on than older people. Am I wrong?
No, you're quite correct. Except I think your audience is much larger in terms of the demographics towards the millennial and post-millennial generations. I think a lot more young guys watch your stuff than you would think. But you're quite correct about that. The complex mind is no longer satisfied with the simple edict of believe this because I tell you.
Okay. And last thing, I wanted to get this in. People are fascinated by this. I had Steve Quayle on, who wrote a couple of books on Antarctica, and you in your data sets came up with Antarctica and Mars connection. Can you tell me about the Antarctica Mars connection in your data sets?
There's actually many layers of the connection there between Mars and Antarctica. One of the chief things we're going to discover, though, is that when we get into Antarctica, and especially in the pyramids, is this relationship between pyramid culture here and on our planet, that we are now living in the remnant of that once great culture, and a pyramid culture that is on other planets in our solar system, Mars among them. And so the looking at the archaeology, so to speak, and the anthropology that will come out of Antarctica will give us an insight to what had occurred on Mars, and basically what was going on way back when that we just don't have a clue about.
We're talking about pre-flood stuff.
Oh, correct. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's just a lot we don't know about what happened before the flood. I mean, just a lot we don't know. Technology, are they going to reveal more technology? And that's part of the silver story, that is the technology is going to be revealed, not just from Antarctica, but in all this technology that the deep state, that the powers that be, whatever, have been withholding. When that gets revealed, people are going to go, oh my gosh, we need silver, because all this technology is going to be revealed.
Correct. And we've actually even seen concrete, if you will, linguistic proof of this in the last two lines of the State of the Union speech, where Trump says the government has these suppressed technologies he wants to see get out. And yes, once the technology comes out, silver will be determined to be quite valuable, simply because it has this interesting characteristic as a metal. It has these two naturally occurring stable isotopes. This is very rare. Most metals have multiple stable isotopes. Gold only has one. Tungsten has zero. And what we're going to discover, according to our data, is that with silver, we can create a state that's between those two stable isotopes and gets silver to be unstable, if you will, and enjoy all these fantastic properties as a result of that.
Clif High, I just barely, I didn't get it. I didn't get to all my notes, but I will tell you that to people out there that the report's $15. This one is called "Watch This Space." I'm going to link to halfpasthuman.com. Just scroll down. Watch This Space is an end report. You have money back guarantees to people it's an unbelievable guarantee that you don't like it, I'll give you your money back, right? I haven't had a single
Correct.
all the time I've had you on, there must have been thousands and thousands of people that did come and watch you on either YouTube or my site. I haven't had a single complaint where something went wrong, where they didn't get their report, which is absolutely fantastic, really. So,
well, thank you very much, but that's how we do business all the time. If you don't like it, you don't have to pay for it.
I don't know how you couldn't like it. I'd have to. I mean, I could do 3 hours with you on this, and it would take me to really note it up. I'd probably have to do 4 or 5 hours of research. So, a lot in this report that I did not get to. A ton of it, but halfpasthuman.com. Clif High is the man of the hour right here on USAWatchdog.com. Clif High, thank you for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com.
Thank you very much. I'll see you in the future.
I hope so.
Yeah, I'm certain we will.